It's been a really interesting thing watching these or doing these adult fitness tests.
That's like people of middle age or not. You're not older, you're not retirement age, but you still don't meet those checkpoints of function.
Just call me middle age?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Welcome back to the Level Up Life, Muscle and Mindset Mastery. Thank you, everybody who's subscribed, who's tuned in, who's followed us thus far. We got two physical therapists here today, very special guests, Betsy O'Malley and Abbey Thornock. Each have your own specialties, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
So what led you, you can start, Betsy.
Okay,
what led
thanks.
you guys to become physical therapists?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having us today. We're happy to be here and first time podcast for me. So
Awesome.
yay.
Yes.
So what led me to become a physical therapist? I think I always knew that I wanted to be somewhere in healthcare. Just remembering back to like my high school days, and I participated in a lot of sports and had some, injuries of my own. And one thing that was kind of recurring for me was some back pain. So I was in and out of physical therapy and came to understand that my body was hypermobile. So I had a little history in physical therapy there. Again, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into healthcare, thought about maybe going to medical school, ended up deciding that physical therapy was the right path for me. Again, I've always just been a very physical person, and it just really resonated with me. So I went to MSU for my undergraduate degree, and the advice that I got was study something that you're interested in case you don't get into PT school. So that's what I did, and I studied psychology because I've always been interested in like the mind-body connection. So I got my undergrad degree in psychology, and then from there went to CMU for physical therapy school.
So psychology plays a role, I'm sure, in what you do. We'll get back to that, though.
It does, yes.
What about you, Abby?
I really fell into physical therapy during my undergrad. I did my undergrad at BYU, and I was like, where do I want to be? I know I want to work with people. These are my strengths academically. I didn't want to do medicine necessarily and deal with bodily fluids. So I decided that PT might be a good fit for me. And I did some shadowing while I was in college and enjoyed my time shadowing other PTs in clinic. And
Well, I know if you've hired her, you know what you're doing, and I know you know what you're doing because you've given me some tips on my most recent injury. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think there's a lot of parallels between, being a trainer and being a physical therapist, but I think there's what you guys do is way more in depth. So I guess tell me about some of the injuries that are the hardest, and then some that are maybe recurring that you see a lot of people going through, because I know as far as we'll get into posture too, but
Yep.
we see a lot of postural distortions and stuff with what we do. So Betsy, if you want to start.
Okay, so
A common injury.
Okay, so as far as what I generally see, I think different physical therapists kind of end up specializing in different areas based on their interests. And as a new grad, I just really wanted to be great at what I did. So I went down the path of Orthopaedic Manual Physical Therapy. So I got some extra training at Oakland University and started down the path as a outpatient manual therapist. So I've always really enjoyed doing that, working with cervical spine injuries, thoracic spine injuries, lumbar spine, peripheral mobilizations of the joints. But, life happens to all of us and our interests go in different directions. And I ended up having some autoimmune disorders of my own that got me kind of interested in some of the more complicated things that we see, things that are kind of in the gray area, people who aren't really getting good answers and things. And I think that's why I ended up loving Pilates so much, because it was really a very holistic approach. that allowed me to treat people kind of at a more holistic level. So integrating Pilates into what I do is something that I've always really been interested in. So, because I do that now, I'm kind of attracting a certain clientele because of that. Still lots of neck, thoracic, lumbar spine injuries, shoulder injuries, hip injuries. And then also, more of the fibromyalgia population, autoimmune problems, things like that. So every day is very varied and different, and that's how I like it.
That's one thing I love about training is there's so much variety in the day.
Yeah.
The same client
Yep.
can be in two different places from day to day. So
You can always learn more.
In performance managing, like not just the musculoskeletal system, but the nervous system.
Absolutely.
Like if you're pushing someone, engaging kind of, all right, are they frying their nervous system out? Am I pushing them too hard? Are they allowing me to push them hard enough, and that type of thing? So
Right. I think initially when I went into this profession, I was thinking musculoskeletal system, but it is a lot of nervous system, and more and more, I think, as the decades have passed. I've been a PT for decades now.
Yeah. Well, experience is huge, so
Yeah.
that makes you better at your craft.
Yeah.
I think that nervous system plays an enormous role in what you guys do. I don't know exactly the training and all that. I have a ton of respect for physical therapists because you guys have to take body parts from being immobilized and get them back to strength to pass off to people like us.
Yeah.
So what's a common injury you see?
So I treat kind of the general orthopedic population too, shoulders, hips, knees, low back. But then I specialize in pelvic floor therapy. So on the pelvic floor front, I treat women. I see a lot of urinary incontinence or leakage. I see some fecal leakage, pelvic pain, even things like pudendal neuralgia or some other types of nerve pain that affects the pelvis.
So what's pudendal?
The pudendal nerve innervates the pelvic floor, when there's pudendal neuralgia is like a chronic pain in that nerve ending area. So it can get pretty complicated to treat.
Yeah.
But
So with men, do men have a pelvic floor?
men do have a pelvic floor, yes. Male pelvic floor physical therapy treats a lot of prostate-related issues after prostate cancer treatments. Also, any kind of pelvic pain, penile pain, erectile dysfunction. I know there's some treatments for that. So it's a variety of things for men as well.
I think it's kind of taboo for men to talk about. I know my personal experience, we talked a little bit before the start of the show, is deadlifting, a lot of weight. And I felt pressure right in the groin area. And I did some research, and I was like, it was shocking to me. And this was a couple years into, because they don't teach you about pelvic floor strengthening stuff in personal training. So I know it's important, especially when you're pushing your body to its limits, to make sure that you're targeting every area, which is something this guy's really good at, his warm-ups.
Right.
And
That's just, again, you said, personal training, there's not a lot, it's not brought up, but I've had the opportunity now, we talked internet before, there's so much more knowledge, and it's just not put in your face, but it's there and you'll notice it. So just picking up, and it's like, yeah, I should probably look into that if ABC applies to me, and it tracks with the same type of training that you can work through there, or issues that people have. And that's something, being younger, I haven't ran into yet, but I'm going to, because I plan to do this for a long time. So
I'm sure you'll see a client that has some sort of
right.
So as far as like when I see clients, go ahead. You had
Well,
something
I was
to
just
say.
going to say, I mean, in terms of statistics, 1 in 3 women who are adult women, childbearing age and beyond, have pelvic floor dysfunction of some kind. So not all of it is diagnosed, and not all of it is something that women are recognizing that there's treatment for, but it's so prevalent. And we know also research has shown that up to half of women who decide to stop going to the gym cite pelvic floor dysfunction as part of the reason for stopping, either pain, discomfort, leakage.
So it results
It's
in
a barrier
deconditioning
to overall
and-
wellness. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a client actually that you mentioned. I don't want to say names or anything, but she was on the leg press, and she was pushing significant amount of weight, and she was like, when I went to, because I always wipe the equipment down after my clients are done, and she was like, "Don't touch that," and I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Adam, when you have X amount of kids, so." Is women who have children are more prone to pelvic floor dysfunction?
Before menopause, that is true. After menopause, it seems to kind of balance out, and rates are pretty similar between women who've had kids and who have not.
Do you do like workshops on this? You do?
Yeah, we've done a couple so far. We definitely will do more in the future. So
Because I think in terms of general health for not just women but men, it's kind of like one of those topics that we don't hear a lot about, but everybody seems like a majority of the public experiences it at some point.
And it's great people are talking about it more and more.
yeah, the conversation is opening up. It's getting better, but for a long time, it's just, well, that's what happens when you have kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We kind of laugh about it. Yeah,
Right.
I peed my pants while I was on my run this morning.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then we move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now we're realizing more and more that we can achieve a higher standard of wellness and healthcare for women.
Yeah.
by addressing
Same thing
it.
with menopause. I think that's becoming much less taboo, and
Yes.
we're talking about things more.
Yeah, because those happen to all women.
Yes, yes.
So I don't,
Why
you know,
isn't-
and from a male standpoint, I'll never experience menopause. There is kind of like a thing called andropause, which
Okay.
it's kind of coming to light more. And we discussed it with Jessica Raymond last week's episode, I think it was. But I think just compassion for men too, to be understanding. Like,
Yeah.
Like not, you peed your pants, or
Yeah.
Right.
you know, like I know I've heard women say jumping on the trampoline, like I can't do this or that because of, which it's preventable, correct?
It's preventable and treatable,
Right.
I would say. I mean, sometimes
Maybe
the
not
cause of it
preventable.
is, could we do more strengthening before a pregnancy, during a pregnancy, and have prevented it? Maybe. But I think more important is for people to recognize that there's something we can do about it when it starts happening.
And it's more than just like Kegels, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of standard that, I mean, before I started researching, that was the one thing I had heard of.
Yeah, you see it all the time, right? And women are told by their doctor or by whoever else, do your Kegels. And but many women have never been shown how to do one, or have certainly never had someone assess if they're doing it correctly before they come and see me. And they're not doing them right. But how do we know without that feedback? We just have people telling us to do these pelvic floor exercises, and when you're disconnected with your pelvic floor, it's hard to know what that is even supposed to look like.
Yeah, and it can be a contributing factor to back pain too. We've collaborated
Yes.
with a few patients, because if you think about it, that's the base of your core. If your core is a canister, it's the pelvic floor on the bottom, the diaphragm on top, and transverse abdominis, obliques, rectus, and back extensors. So,
Yeah.
but we kind of forget about that sometimes, and it could be did you have a statistic for how often it's a contributing factor to back pain?
I know I don't have a statistic for how often, but in a study that was done in Australia, they found that it is the most of the things that they studied, including weight, activity, it had the highest correlation to back pain was
Yeah.
pelvic floor dysfunction.
Yeah.
So
So
even
we
more
can't
than someone
overlook
who's
it.
overweight, pelvic floor dysfunction.
Yeah, you can't overlook it with our patients.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
even
have
if there
very
isn't
strong,
symptoms, I
you
mean,
know,
that's something you'd want to.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have people who are strong and exercising a lot, and they still have this low back pain that's always there.
Right.
And then when we get in and assess the pelvic floor, there's a weakness or a disconnect with when and how that should be recruited.
Right.
And then once we address that, things are more stable.
Yeah, so that's I'm thinking about what we do in coaching people and getting, people don't all respond to the same cues, so I'm sure that's really challenging to, most people are aware of their bicep, so coaching someone on how to do a bicep curl would be way easier than if someone isn't aware of their pelvic floor muscles even. don't think about that type of stuff, it would be really hard to coach.
Yeah, it can take some time in sessions, but it's part of what we do. I might spend 2 sessions with people teaching them about the pelvic floor and helping them find those right muscles. And part of that can be an internal assessment and giving some tactile feedback to them. And part of it is finding the right cues. Like you said, some people respond really well to certain cues and other people got a whole list of them that I have to try out for people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it rolls well into our Pilates
Yes.
exercises.
I love
like
the connection into the
with the exhalation,
Pilates.
and
A
so
lot
they
of
can
breath
continue
work.
practicing it that way.
And
There's a lot
that
of
deep
breath work
core
is-
emphasis in Pilates just fits so beautifully with what people are often missing when they're coming in for pelvic floor therapy, that I love that we kind of get these essentials down in pelvic floor therapy, and then we can transition into some Pilates type movements or even transition into Pilates classes after they're done with physical therapy if they want to.
For
Yeah,
practice.
Pilates is no joke. I've never actually done Pilates.
Okay,
Oh,
well, we're
you
going to have
gotta
to
come.
change that.
I know it's challenging.
Yeah.
My problem is lack of flexibility, and I know there's a stretching component to Pilates, which is probably why I should do it, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So a good definition of Pilates is really finding your stability and then challenging that with mobility. So, yeah. And, as far as fitness goes, you want to take care of your cardiovascular health, your strength, and your flexibility. Those are kind of the 3 pillars. And we all don't do the one that we don't like, so that's the one we need to do.
I'm getting better. They've actually connected in recent studies. They've found a correlation in cardiovascular events, heart attacks, and strokes with lack of flexibility. So,
Okay. Interesting.
and I've read it, but my brain doesn't retain things.
Sure. No, got
I have
it.
to read it like a million times to retain it. But
Yeah.
what I gathered from the first time I read it was your vascular system runs through the tissue. If that's all bound up, then
Right.
Sure.
all your veins, arteries are
Right.
going to be like,
Yeah, you got to have a good balance between the collagen and the elastin. Elastin moves, and collagen gives you the structure.
Yeah.
And the best place to be is like right there in the middle. Like I said, I'm too loose, and you're too tight. So we need to be somewhere in the middle there. So I need more stability or strength training, and you need more flexibility.
more stretching.
Yeah,
And I'm a stretch coach. You'd think I'd be.
But knowing how to do something and
No one's
doing it
perfect.
are
Yes.
2 different things.
yes.
Yep.
We all
Do
know what
as
we
I say,
should
not
be
as I do.
doing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to explain to the audience what muscles are part of your pelvic floor. Really get into depth on that so they can understand.
Yeah, I should have brought my pelvic floor model.
Yeah.
So our pelvis creates like a bowl, and it creates like a sling or a hammock of muscles in the bottom of that bowl. So we have muscles like levator ani and puborectalis, and a lot of muscles that probably you didn't cover in your anatomy class in high school if you took one. But we also have our obturator internus, which is a hip rotator that comes up. You know that one that comes and makes up a good part of our pelvic floor as well. So there is a strong connection between those internal pelvic floor muscles and the hip rotators, hip stabilizers, and even our adductors in our legs. We find a lot of correlation between weakness in those muscles and also tightness in those muscles. If we have tightness in the pelvic floor, we almost always see tightness in the adductors and the hips. So we can help one by addressing the other.
So, and that's a lot of what we deal with corrective exercises like lower cross syndrome. And Jonda's classification is, lengthened here, shortened here, shortened here, lengthened here. So it creates that tilt. So is that kind of what happens with the...
Yeah, a lot of different types of things can happen depending on what's going on. We certainly have pelvic floor dysfunction that's from not enough strength or recruitment in the pelvic floor, or those muscles are lengthened because of too much chronic pressure. But then we also have pelvic floor dysfunction that's on the opposite end, where those muscles are in this tight holding pattern and they are painful because there's too much tightness, and we need to teach the patient to let those muscles relax and elongate.
And how do you do that? That's a challenge, huh?
It is a challenge. It's harder to teach that elongation than it is to teach the contraction. So we call it down training. It's a lot of breath work. It's a lot of mind-body connection, and starting to recognize, okay, this is what engagement feels like. This is what resting through the pelvic floor feels like. And a lot of practice, you know. We also have some tools that we might send patients home with to help either stretch the muscles or address tight spots.
So that's probably what led to my injury, is really tight in my external rotators.
Could be, yeah.
And then as far as weakness goes, I'm really weak on my internal rotators because, I mean, the gym I was at before, we didn't have, basically, there wasn't a whole lot to train the internal rotators on. So
Yeah.
as far as just body weight, pretty much. So I feel like I neglected those for too long. I know you see the adductor machine at the gym too. And I know a lot of the younger generation calls that machine sus. They're like, that machine's sus. And I'm like, you want to train
the most popular.
right. You want to train the entire body, right? So
Yes.
everything's balanced. So
I think in the fitness world, it is easy for people to overlook the importance of training the rotator muscles, rotator cuff in the shoulder, rotators for the hips, because they're not showy, right? Like you can have a real strong rotator cuff and no one will know by looking at you. So
well, I
it's
know
more fun to train your biceps and your quads and your glutes than
the
it is to
anterior and
train.
posterior muscles, but even
Yes.
the frontal plane muscles, even the side body muscles and medial,
Yes.
in addition to the rotators. Yeah, those are kind of
They're a little
forgotten about.
neglected sometimes.
yeah, biceps and chest every day.
Yeah, but again,
And
that's
what's fun to train. You get the pump. You feel
I
good
was
at the end.
talking to Ashley this morning. You know, Ashley.
Yeah.
Ashley, I told you I'd shout you out, so here it is. Hopefully you're watching.
We love Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
and hi, Sylvie, if you're with Ashley.
Also, yeah.
Hi, Sylvie.
Yes. But yeah, I was like explaining to, it's not the things that you see that are going to cause the issues, and the difference between bodybuilding and why when a bodybuilder goes to run after their dog, like we talked about, they're going to tear their hamstring. And then also like the work that we do, trying to prevent further either pain in a joint or pain in general, is it's not about the muscles you see. And that's what we talked, like Pilates, a lot of those muscles you're training are not the showy muscles.
No.
But I said this to her, I like to think of it as bulletproofing the body,
Right.
because you're never going to, like if somebody's a Superman, you look bulletproof. Yeah, he looks big and strong, but it's not like, you know, he looks like a regular dude. It doesn't matter. Like it's still going to hit him. He's going to be able to push through it. You don't have to look the part, even though like you're still going to benefit from this. And so that's what we talked about with like, you know, my term bulletproofing the body, whatever. I've heard that before, but yeah, love that.
And it's for me at this point, it's about longevity of the body, you know, more than being showy or, you know, I want to, you know, personally want my body to be working well into my 80s so I can enjoy my grandkids. And I know a lot of my clients do too. And I think that Pilates really speaks to that really well. Like some of the areas of tightness that you're having, you know, we do those like in a mermaid position, you know, on the spine corrector. Some of the feet and straps really help to, you know, keep those hips nice and flexible. So it is kind of like a preventative care so your body can work for all of its years.
And for the athletes too, when
Yes.
if you're neglecting parts, I think it's important. Like if you neglect one area, it's going to affect your performance, right?
Right.
Because if you're in pain, you can't play, you can't compete.
Yeah. Well, we're always limited by our weakest link, right? And often the weakest link is whatever we've been neglecting.
Right.
So,
But yeah,
like-
when I've worked with athletes, the core is often not there. You know, in practices, they're doing plyometrics and sport-specific activities. But yeah, there's usually some flexibility and core deficits there.
Yeah, I've had people say to me, they're like, I don't even know why someone would hire a trainer. And I'm like,
people have said the same thing to me about PTs. So,
right. Well, and I think that people don't understand really like how in depth this stuff can get.
Yeah.
Right.
They
Yeah.
just think it's like, you know, I go in and do these basic movements and I'll be fine until you start aging, you get into your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, and you're like,
Well, not even that, just progression alone. If you're going to have any meaningful long-term progression where you're pushing more weight, it's going to take a lot more demand. And one injury with 300 pounds versus 100 when you're starting is going to be a lot more detrimental, even though you'll be hopefully in a better position to bounce back from that. You get to a point where you need to invest more and more in order to keep seeing results if that's your goal, right? And so like at very high levels of athletics too, it's like, yeah, you're hopefully going to be able to bounce back better, but it's not just do this for the whole time you're doing it and you're going to keep progressing. You're going to run into roadblocks. And so those, being able to see those ahead of time by addressing issues that you see or what's going to help you, prevent that. So
yeah. I love what you. I'm intrigued now. Like I need to get in there. We
Yeah.
should go we should get
Let's
Waz
do
too.
it. Let's do it.
I'll
Yeah.
go in
You guys
for
can
a
come in for a
Pilates
duet
class.
session.
Yeah, and then you guys can come in and do some strength training. It'd be
Okay,
awesome.
I need it.
We'll do a swap.
Yeah. I think it's like the for what you guys do and then transitioning, because there's a ton of situations where people are like, well, their insurance is done paying for PT and they're like, I want to continue and I want to continue to get stronger. And that's where there's a lot of collaborations between what you guys do and then what we do. A lot of the injuries that I get that I've seen from people is athletes, specifically ACLs.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
I don't
a
know.
long recovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's like the turf or, what contributes to it if kids are just getting stronger. I don't know the why, but I know
Stabilizers, hip are we strengthening hips? Or are we just focusing on quads and glutes?
And I think that times have changed. Like when I grew up, I played maybe 0 travel sports, maybe 1. But nowadays, kids are in 3 travel sports a year, and some are in the same one all year. So there's some imbalances being brought to these kids' bodies.
too much demand.
Too
right?
much demand.
Yeah.
Too
Yep.
much of the same loading and demand throughout
Right.
the year, right? If you're playing baseball all year long, the stresses on the shoulder and the elbow it used to be that we didn't see a Tommy John injury except at the professional level. And now we have kids as young as 9 getting Tommy John surgeries because they're in travel sports and they're pitching too much. Yeah. It's just too much strain on their body. Whereas when I was a kid, I grew up in the UP, so we didn't do travel sports. It was already a travel sport to do school sports.
Yeah.
But it was less common to be doing the same sport all year round, right? Like I did tennis in the fall and then I did track in the spring and, basketball went in the winter, whatever. So
Yeah.
Different demand.
So I think the increased intensity of kids' sport participation, especially in a city like Midland,
I
That's
think
why
a
we're
lot
seeing
more kids are strength training these days than from when I was,
Yeah, I think
that
so,
age,
too.
a high school athlete. I think way more kids are strength training. I think in general, the population's stronger, which is a good thing, but I think they're neglecting those.
Yeah, and maybe some
stabilizers.
proprioceptive exercises too, that's important too.
Yeah.
I was talking with current students about this because, going through their soccer season, working out 6 days during the season still. And then looking back at my time when I was just getting into lifting seriously on a regular plan and then going through a season, and it would be either a morning workout of my own and then to practice with a weight room beforehand and then my full practice in the middle of my season with all my games, or, straight out of school into our team weight room, into team practice, then on my own weight room time after, and I'm doing 4+ hours a day of this 6 days a week with games intermix if it's basketball or if it's football or whatever. And then looking back, going into junior and later seasons and cutting out at least more than half probably of the excess stuff and realizing how much better I was performing just because you're overdoing so much.
Yeah.
And especially when you understand, I still understood the concept of recovery, but I felt fine. I thought I was going to be fine. I didn't see it really holding me back, but especially when you're in school and you have homework and you're sleeping 4 to 6 hours. A lot of kids now, especially with caffeine in the mix, and that's what they're
all the
relying
social
on now,
medias,
Phones,
right?
Yeah.
And
doom
so
scrolling.
Yep.
you're actively regressing because you're not recovering, for one. So even if you were working out at a reasonable amount, you're still not recovering enough to really get the benefit of that. But then also you're just overdoing it. And I think that see a lot of that because, again, they're aware more people are strength training, but they're still not doing it right. And that's where, like, if you're in high school, this is one of two cases. Either you're really interested in your sport and you want to push hard on your own, or I see this a lot too, is parents who want their kid to do a lot and forcing them into it. And kids get dragged into the gym and they're not happy. They're putting in work, but I've seen more than one case of people, not just at our gym, but gyms all over, where kids will leave crying and their parents are following out with a disgusted look. And you know they're in the middle of a season that's just heartbreaking. Like, what are we...
Yeah.
Right.
Why are
they playing?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
Now let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Pine Haven Assisted Living. At Pine Haven Assisted Living, they believe in making every resident feel at home. Nestled in the peaceful countryside of Hemlock, Michigan, they offer compassionate care in a family-like environment where residents can enjoy independence with the support they need. Registered nurse-owned and operated, their team provides personalized care, home-cooked meals, and a range of activities to ensure your loved ones continue to live a fulfilling life. They also have alpacas and llamas on site to enrich the lives of their residents. Experience the warmth and comfort of Pine Haven. Call them today at 989-295-6632. That's 989-295-6632. Or you can visit them on their website at pinehavenassistedliving.com. That's pinehavenassistedliving.com for more information. Now, back to the Level Up Life.
I think another building block too is nutrition. You know, when you're living this life, which I've lived with my family of like multiple kids in travel sports, your nutrition, you know, I'm not making healthy family dinners. You know, I'm going through McDonald's once in a while. You know, so I mean, that's what the building blocks the kids have are when you're living that really busy life. You know,
Absolutely,
so
deficiencies, and then you're just not fueling the body, which impacts recovery. And
right, yeah.
Sometimes I think that you talk like, why would I even need a trainer or a PT? Someone to tell you, no, you don't have to do everything. And take a step back, progress slowly, so it's actually going to work for you and it's going to be manageable.
Yeah, dosing exercise is an interesting thing. You know, in PT, I always tell patients, like, if you're real sore, let me know, because we might need to change up what you're doing in your home program. It might be a little too much or not enough. We want to find that right amount so we can maximize recovery, but minimize, you know, side effects, soreness, discomfort.
Yeah.
one thing I ask every single client when they walk through the door is, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Because you can get, hey, I'm tired, or, you know, I'm just a little sore today, or I feel great, you know, and that gives me a gauge of, okay, how hard am I going to push them today? Because I have the program, I have what I want to do with them, but if they come in and they're like, I just feel so tired today, I got this going on, if it's mental stress, which is what I want to talk about next, is just the psychology of all of this. But sometimes if you only, I think I quote Woz here, he said, if you only have 50% that day and you give 100, you gave 100%.
Right.
So
I think too, you know, how are you feeling before and how are you feeling after, you know, especially for, you know, sometimes I think it's about 20% of our population that is really active to the point of achieving those, the Physical Alliance or the Physical Activity Alliance, their directions as far as like 150 minutes of moderate exercise plus 2 strength sessions. Plus, if you're over 65, a little bit of balance work. So it's only 20% people who are achieving that. And then there's the other 80%, right, who it's harder to train, right? And a little harder to have in physical, harder to convince. And those might be the people that are like, why would I need a trainer? Why would I, because they don't understand maybe physical literacy and how important it is.
Yes.
But what I'm getting to is you said, ask before, but also ask after, because studies have found that if new exercisers can relate feeling better with what they just did, they're 77% more likely to keep doing it. But if they don't realize they feel better, they'll just be like, oh, what did I do that for?
Why would they not keep coming if they leave feeling better than they walk in?
Right.
Anyway?
Yep.
And they usually come with the goals of, these big goals, right? Okay, I want to lose 40 pounds or, these things that are going to take longer.
Right.
But what can I achieve today? Well, I can feel better, mentally and, whatever else. So,
And I usually share like the dopamine and the endorphins that physical activity produces. So,
yeah.
I mean, we use the RPE scale, rate of perceived, it's actually exertion, but I like to say exhaustion.
There you go.
Like how do you feel? Are you tired? Like
How hard are you working?
there's like the sweat meter. How much sweat did they produce on their shirt? Because their beads coming off, and I look at all that stuff. So, I mean, you probably aren't able to push them quite as much if it's a PT thing.
Probably not as much. It depends on the patient. I'm thinking of a couple of men I've treated recently with orthopedic issues who are definitely getting sweaty during their sessions. So it just depends on the patient and what their goals are.
Yeah, and I always think of physical therapy as more of like the specific, like honed in, targeted, where what we do is more, it's like the difference between talking guns, like, now I can't even think about it. Like shotgun spread is what we do, and you guys are more like that targeted.
Like a BB gun?
BB gun,
Okay.
yes.
I just bought a BB gun.
Yes, yeah.
For your clients or?
For my dad, yeah.
Okay.
It was an experience, though. I was like, okay, anyway.
Yeah.
That was exciting for me.
It's a new purchase, right? It's exciting. So the psychology side of things, we're getting into a little bit. I know one thing I like to do with people when they come through the door is greet them enthusiastically because of how that would make them feel.
Right.
And if they associate coming to the gym with feeling, welcomed, and that's going to make them want to come back.
Right.
Also, on the other side of the coin, I've had one client ever puke.
Okay.
Not because I can't get people to puke. I don't ever want that, right? Because then we get into associations too with that.
Right.
If someone is associating exercise with vomiting, what else do we associate with vomiting? Being sick.
Right.
So if someone's like coming in the gym and I'm making them puke all the time, they're not going to want to come back.
Yeah.
So as far as physical therapy goes, like, I just think of when I had PT and how painful it was when I had knee surgery, and just literally getting my leg from here to here
You need it again.
was like, and I was really discouraged by the process, and the PT I had was like, hey, you're doing great. So I guess I want to understand your guys' approach with that, because a lot of the people you see coming off injuries or some debilitating type of injury are probably not in high spirits.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree. And, I think we're probably not going to make them in high spirits day one or day two, but, just kind of the approach of we're walking this with you, you're not alone. And then again, like I mentioned before, kind of affect determines effect. So, like you said, you don't want to make them puke because, then they'll relate this with not a great experience. But, there's other ways to make things pleasant, in your conversation, in just the, our studio, I think it's pretty warm and welcoming, and we try in a lot of ways to make it that way, from your first consultation, when you come in, we really try and make things so that they are very individualized and people feel very taken care of. So, definitely keeping all of that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about like programming too. When I'm programming for someone, I'm really thinking, all right, this person's really good at squats, right?
Right.
So I want to include that because that's something they enjoy. It's something they're good at. But I also, if they're really bad at, if they're not good at lunges, if they don't like them, you know, like incorporating some of that into it. I can't say when I went to PT, I wanted to do any of that stuff.
You didn't have to do any of it?
I didn't want.
You didn't want to do any of that.
I didn't want to do anything they were having me do. I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do. I always tell my patients, I'm like, if you hate an exercise on your home program, please tell me, because there are probably 1,000 other exercises I could come up with to train that same muscle group.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have particular exercises where I have very specific reasons that I've chosen it, but I'll share that with the patient. And I think just being open about why you're doing what you're doing helps people feel engaged in the process. It gives them some understanding. I'm huge on education. From our first session, I want the patients to feel heard, and I want them to understand what we're doing together to rehabilitate.
And I think goals too, you know, like from the first couple sessions, really establishing those goals. You know, are we doing the lunges just to make you mad? No, because they, you know, it's going to help you with your strength and balance. So having them understand the why of what we're doing and tying it to an end goal, which is their goal usually, you know, really helps with that.
Tying it to something very functional, right? Like, okay, let's look at what it looks like to get up off the floor from being on the floor. It's a lunge, right? So when you make that connection for people, then it makes more sense. Why are we practicing lunges? Because that's how you get up and down off the floor safely. Why are we practicing squats? Because that's how you get down into your cupboards when you're pulling out your crock pot or whatever is down in those low cupboards.
He mentioned translation too with training, and that's what you guys are just talking about. Is like lunges are like walking. They're like getting up off the ground. What do we do when we sit down? We're squatting, you know, so.
Yeah, I almost always, if I'm thinking I need something single-sided to balance for a leg day, I almost always choose lunges and almost never Bulgarians for that very reason. Because I can tell people, you're just walking with load, right? And I tell my athletes, like, you're just running. I have them emphasize a higher step when they go through the front portion too, because it leads into their stride better. And it's like, this is showing you how it's going to directly correlate to your sport. This is why we're doing it versus just Bulgarians. A lot of people hate Bulgarians too, so we try to avoid those. But, you know, Waz lunges just as much.
Walking lunges
But
specifically.
right. But it's like, I find those a staple now. Again, we talk single-sided just because it's really easy for me to draw them to their goal in real-world application because of that. So
Yeah.
I choose it not just because, but I choose it over other options for that reason.
Yeah.
Very easy to draw to that. So.
And I'm thinking of a patient I saw today. I do some adult fitness testing that's really interesting because it's very data-driven, and you look at these there's different tests, like for endurance, for flexibility, for strength, for balance. And she's been coming to us doing reformer classes and all the classes for about 10 years, and she's 73, and she knocked it out of the park. Like, usually people have a couple deficit areas, and when they have deficit areas, we know that they're on track for disability in a certain area. That's what makes this test so great. It's not just like, okay, I'm 73, and how do I compare to other 73-year-olds? Well, who cares? It's, you know, is this going to lead to, am I on track for a disability? But because she's been training at a higher level, she can do all those things no problem. And not everybody can. It's been a really interesting thing watching these or doing these adult fitness tests.
That's like people of middle age or not, you're not older, you're not retirement age, but you still don't meet those checkpoints of function.
Did you call me middle age?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
You can call me middle-aged. I think I'm older
Who's
than
double
you, so-
my age? Who's double my age? That's for the gray fish.
The gray fish.
Hey,
there you go,
inside
Josh.
joke,
You hear that?
inside joke for the editors. But
Yep.
anyway, yeah. But again, it's like people of anybody middle age, you're not passing those tests. Doesn't just mean you're older. Like that just becomes part of our posture day to day. We talk like sitting at a desk. If you're working all day, you're probably not passing all those checkpoints when it comes to like movement range and functional strength. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And people in their 40s, I mean, in 50s, sarcopenia is very real. Osteoporosis is very real. So we need to be doing resistance training for all of those things.
Yeah.
And
I think it's
you
very-
mentioned balance a couple times too. The
Uh-huh.
balance is huge.
It is huge, yeah, and it is one of those markers, you know, from the PAA, Physical Activity Alliance, that over 65 you should be doing some sort of balance training. Yeah, and it is one of the deficit areas that I see most of on that test that I do here in Midland. Yeah, and it's for people age 50 and over. Balance and endurance are probably the top two ones that I see.
Pilates is probably great for balance.
It is. Yep.
And so I have clients, a couple of them, you know, Wendy and Rich, do balance training.
I see that. You have them on the Bosu and doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Creating controlled instability to where, and then I try and coach people, like if you can build it into your day,
Right.
even in the Walktober, you know, I put
Love
on there,
Walktober.
like, hey, why don't you balance on one leg when you brush your teeth? It's
Right.
super simple, but if you compound that over days, weeks, months, years, you're going to be like,
So 20 seconds. They need to be able to do that rock solid for 20 seconds. Single leg
legs.
And then build in eyes closed, you know, because as they age and are walking in darker places, you know, and vision is one of the three main parts of balance, you know, vision, somatosensory, and your vestibular system. So people who are weaker in vestibular or somatosensory will make up that with their vision, you know, so taking
most
that out
us
of it.
are vision dominant with their balance. People are very surprised when you have them close their eyes. They're like, oh, this is too bad. Then you have them close their eyes. They're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was so unstable. Or
how much
anything.
they rely on their vision.
But you know who else needs balance training? Are the athletes with knee and ankle injuries.
Yes.
That is like key to fully rehabbing an ankle sprain is
And
to
again,
get the balance and
proprioception.
proprioception working there, right? And if you don't get it, the likelihood of re-injuring the same, you know, joint is high. So
I think we being humanity in our society today have built a lot of convenience into our lives when our bodies are built to work. So I think
Agree.
that as a stem to a lot of the issues that we see, especially in the population that doesn't exercise regularly. I always say when you go to the doctor's office or any sort of waiting room, go into the corner. It doesn't have to be the corner. It can be anywhere. And do a deep squat and see how many people look at you like you're bonkers.
That's why you're in the doctor's office. 'Cause you're
Well, so and that's a position that was used to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And now we have toilets, right? Which is nice. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but we have the chair. We have, which when we used to rest, it would be if we were out in the fields working, how would we rest?
Right.
in a deep squat.
Right. So it's like doing these regular regular movements for the body, yoga, yoga movements really is what they are. Doing those will help preserve function
Yeah.
because you have to get up from that position. So
Right.
if you go pee X amount of times a day, you're doing a minimum of that many squats.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to see the connection between people's careers and the types of injuries that we see. I always ask people what they do for work or what their day looks like. You know, if you're working at home or from home, that also is relevant. If you're doing manual labor versus if you work a desk job, we see different types of injuries. And do you find the same thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And postural, you know, abnormalities and imbalances too. You know, if you're sitting, you should definitely be stretching your hip flexors, hip flexors, hip flexors,
And the upper thoracic, right?
and
Getting
upper
that
thoracic
extension.
and chest openers. So those are like
You
three
see this
areas.
a lot with
Yeah,
'Cause
because we're like this, right?
when you're out like this, people don't think like, oh, I'm engaging my muscle. They're just like, oh, I'm typing. But when your arms are extended out in front, you're actually
Yeah.
engaging that tissue. So then if you sit like that for 4 hours, take a break, 4 hours again, your body doesn't turn that volume down.
Right.
Just because you're not
Yes.
like this anymore. So
Yeah.
Get into these tight patterns. And young moms, with their babies, nursing, hunching over like this all day long. We see a lot of that kyphosis functionally in young moms, right? You have to look at what people are doing in their day-to-day life, and then what sort of exercises do we need to do to kind of undo some of the chronic positions that they're in.
Right. And I think for a lot of years, in the aging process, as far as like, your posture becoming forward and stuff, people just accepted that as a normal part of aging. Same thing with feet and bunions and toes crossing over. We should be actively working on, none of that really has to happen, is if you're doing restorative sort of work and balancing exercises.
Look at the bunions.
I'll stretch that out for you.
Shoes.
Yeah.
See my shoes? They look a little like clown shoes.
Yeah. Well, so I had inserts when I was at home. My mom got me into a podiatrist, and they found out that I overpronate. So my arch is high, and then it drops when I stride.
This could be affecting your hip, by the way.
Which led to knee valgus, which led to this. Well, when I had the inserts, I was good. Then I moved out, and I'm like, I don't need these. They, I played baseball.
Right.
The dirt got in them. They got chewed up, gone. Didn't get any new ones. And then it was like 15 years, and that's part of what led to my knee injury. It's part of what led to probably my hips.
Yeah.
And then you get the lower back that'll, you get hyperlordosis.
Right.
To the lower spine, and then weakened. So it's just, it cascades all the way
It's
up.
all connected.
Yeah, that metatarsophalangeal joint is a joint like any other joint that can be stretched, and we can mobilize that joint capsule and everything, and then we have to wake up these muscles, the abductors of the great toe. And but yeah, once that starts crossing over, everything above it is going to be out of alignment. The way that you, the way you weight bear on your knee and hip, that's all going to change. So
the tripod for squat is always my biggest cue. For,
right.
Get that tripod.
And they always focus to hip first to strengthen, but then you lead this over and over. That's something recently I had to catch myself on. Was I've been doing abductor strengthening for the longest time to avoid that. It's been fine, but almost to a fault where now I'm noticing I'm way too tight in this area. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to bring it back the other way. But again, it starts at the foot in that same position, squeezing the ground.
And we use the reformer, and you put your feet on the foot bar for footwork. And then, just this morning, I was really working on getting really precise with where they're weight bearing through their feet in different positions. But yeah, that's, you ask like about psychology, the mind body, you have to be conscious of that. You can't just do the exercise. Okay, there's a bunch of squats on the reformer. You have to be thinking about your alignment and really connecting that conscious control. And what am I trying to turn on while I'm doing that? It's very mindful exercise.
And that's
point of it is the mind muscle connection to,
That's added bonus to having a PT or a coach or someone there watching. And I say it all the time myself. I know what a squat should look like, but I can't
know what it should feel like,
and I know what it should feel like, but I can't always see myself. So even coaches hire coaches. So,
absolutely.
It's really important for people to know like there is value in go to your physical therapy.
I've gone to Betsy as a PT. She's been my PT.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
Go see your trainers. It matters. Learning how to self-monitor to some extent, even because when I go to the gym and I work out for 45 minutes, I want 100% return on my investment of time. If I don't know if I'm performing the exercise wrong, I might only get 70% return on my time investment.
Yeah.
Which that's the value, right?
Yeah.
When you have eyes watching you.
I need to come see you because I've been doing the elliptical watching Netflix.
At least you're doing the elliptical.
That's how I get through it.
At least you're doing the elliptical.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
that's something.
could just be watching.
Do you watch
Netflix.
something scary to get your heart rate up as you go?
I just watch trash.
If
I
you're
dissociate
moving,
from my day.
If you're moving though, that's winning.
It's a
Yeah,
step up
yeah.
from the couch peddlers.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
And that's the thing. I think in general, people are like, "Oh, I don't have 5 hours a week to dedicate to strength training and 2.5 for
Sure.
cardio, and then I have to stretch on top of that. I don't
Right.
have.
Yeah.
Right.
So
They feel defeated. Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't have to be. I like to emphasize, you don't have to spend that much time. There's a standard like we would want people at, but whatever you can, if you do 5 minutes of training a day, your body is going to respond and you're going to feel better. And then you're going to want more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This Walktober that the Midland Wellbeing Coalition is doing, we're participating in. And I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot. Like, basically, if I don't get some steps in first thing in the morning, I'm probably not going to be successful. And I think I was kind of the all or none mindset before, like, I got to get them all on the elliptical at the end of the day, you know, and at that point I have 7,000 to do. But I've learned a lot, you know, I can break it up and it's much more pleasant. And also, you don't need to get 10,000 steps every day. You know, with the Walktober, you can get 6 or 8. And there's been a ton of benefits found from even getting 7,000 steps per day. So it doesn't always have to be that 10,000. Really, I mean, I'd be shocked if many of our patients got 10,000, 10,000
10,000 is really a lot.
It is a lot.
Especially if you're not in
that 20% of people who are.
Well, if you're not in the 20%, but also if you're not in a culture where you're walking
Right.
in your community. If you don't live in a walkable community, we drive everywhere.
Right. And our
steps
jobs
are into the store and out of the store to the car.
Yeah, our jobs are pretty active, but still, I
We're
think
active,
we need
but
to do
I'm not
more.
walking a lot.
on
My
top of
days that I'm working, I don't get as many steps as the days I'm not working because I'm working with a client right here. Right? I might be active and demonstrating exercises and moving around throughout the day, but I'm not getting a lot of walking in.
Right. Yep.
I get like 3-4 miles in the gym every day. It's
Good for
crazy.
you.
Like,
Good for you.
Your gym's
You're
bigger
walking
than
all
ours.
I feel like if I tracked it GPS, it'd just be this big scribbly box.
Just color in the hole. It just be a
Etch
square.
a sketch.
Yeah, and then I like to have people do farmers carries, and I walk great with them. Like,
There you go.
Like
there
one
you go.
step
Carries are
behind them
great.
so
Yeah.
that they feel like you're
or I
chasing them
I go in front of them and I
Yeah.
walk backwards.
Yeah, we're probably doing our paperwork.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Notes
one
done.
difference. We got to get those darn notes done.
Yeah. I think walking is just the more research that comes out about walking for exercise, the more amazing it becomes to me. Like, it is so undervalued and underrated as an exercise. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the study is, but I saw a study recently that showed the benefits of walking for 10 to 20 minutes after you eat a meal. So like within half an hour of eating, the effects that it has on blood sugar and your cardiovascular system are amazing. It's like, what do I do after dinner? I go sit on the couch. Like I could get up and go for a walk for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right? So little things like that in our day that can really improve our overall health and wellness. And it's just about shifting little patterns in our day.
Right.
Because I think a lot of us, if we look at our phone and open up the part of your settings that shows how much time you spend on each app, like every time I look at that, I'm like, oh
I know,
my
it's
gosh,
embarrassing.
it's shocking, honestly.
Yep. Well, let's get into a rapid fire round here.
All right.
Favorite lower body exercise?
Clamshells.
Reformer footwork and reformer lift and lower. I can't choose one.
Right now I'm at curtsy lunges. That's
You
what
need lift
feels
and
best
lower.
for me.
You need some of that. You can
Yeah.
come in for some. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Favorite lower body is probably heel elevated goblet.
Okay.
Really high elevated.
Ooh.
Favorite upper body?
I am really enjoying some good extension work right now. Like swimmers or prone extension.
Supermans.
Yep.
I too, that probably would have been my choice, but I'm going to switch. I like the stability chair work. That's one of the pieces of equipment we use for similar reasons, because you need to use those back extensors, but you can also work on shoulder blade stabilization as you do that. And I think you just can't get enough shoulder blade retraction and depression in your life.
Yeah. Because people carry stress up here too.
Right.
Like,
Yes. Yeah, you got to open up that space between your ears and your shoulder.
So my favorite upper body is just anything back related, but I really like rows specifically right now.
Yeah. Doing those single arm pull downs, little side bend too. So it's a
Ooh.
full
Lats
stretch.
in there.
That's why I tell them if it's single across the body and directly above, so you fully open up the shoulder, come all the way down, so the full stretch at the top, the full contraction with the hip bend.
Good job getting the side
that's a
body
great
in.
one.
I love that.
They're awesome. You feel them so much more too doing them. Love
Yeah.
that.
So what's your favorite stretch?
I really like a pigeon pose stretch for people who can get into that position. Not everybody can, but it gets your piriformis, it gets your hip flexor on the opposite side. It's stretching out glute medius minimus.
I'm going to pick a kind of a joint mobilization stretch. So we have, as far as foam rollers go, there's a piece of equipment I like. It's called a Rolga. It's not a 36-inch. What's half a 36?
Is it only
18?
18 or is it 24? It might be 24.
It might be 24. It's
It might be
smaller than the
24,
36-inch. And it's got a couple of bumps on it. So like in the middle, there's kind of a little trough there, then a couple bumps. So your spine can your spinous processes can go right in that trough. And then the bumps get right on your paraspinals and facet joints. So you roll on it and you can get a nice little adjustment and feel some stuff happening. And it can really like tenderize those paraspinal.
That's what I
Tenderize
need.
those
I need
muscles.
tenderized.
Tenderization, yeah. If you sprinkle some salt on it first, it's far better.
Yeah, I would have to say the same stretch as you, not because I like it, but because I feel the best after I do it.
Yeah.
Those and hip opener with a weight shift. So standing up, kettlebell, weight shift, whatever to open up the inside. Doing those together, because obviously you're opening up both sides of that. You feel so much different after.
Well, thank you for coming on. I feel like we could continue this conversation
Absolutely.
in depth for hours.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
Maybe double dipper episode.
Let's
coming
do
in the
it. We'll
future.
come back anytime. Yeah, thank you
part
so
two.
much. This was fun.
Thank you, everybody, as usual, for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with random strangers. Thanks. Bye.